the view going. Usually it says participants.
Yeah, it's got some on here.
You see it? Okay. Oh, 12. It's 12. This is Michael McNally and Shane White from Southern Land Company, and we see we have several people on. We may give it a couple more minutes to make sure people can get on that we're trying to, we'll start shortly. Can everybody hear us okay? Chelsea, can you hear us okay? All right, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Chelsea Randolph from the city of Franklin is on here as well. And then just so everybody knows that's on here now, this is also being recorded as required.
That's 15 now. 1 minute. 16. How do you want to do that first 10 minutes?
But as
Yeah. You kick it off. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. It looks like our participants hovered at about the same number here for a couple of minutes. Again, I'm Michael McNally, the developer with Southern Land on this active adult project that we're here to talk about. Shane White, one of our lead designers here at Southern Land, will be helping walking through some of the more technical details and explanations of what we're talking about specifically today related to the senior living active adult project.
Chelsea, did you have anything that you needed to start with?
Nope, this is y'all's meeting. I'm just here to listen.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
Well, we'll go ahead and jump in. Again, we're talking about the West Haven development plan revision, and I'll give you a little more detail about the development plan itself. I'm gonna let Michael kind of kick it off, and then he'll kick it back over to me if I can get my computer to cooperate. There we go.
Yeah, and we'll walk you through this, and some of it's very straightforward, some may be a little technical, so there'll definitely be a time for Q&A at the end. We're glad to answer questions pertaining to this project and make sure everybody understands why we're here today. What we're talking about today is a portion that's the southeast corner of Mac Hatcher and Highway 96. We call it the Jewel parcel or Jewel area. And we're here to talk about proposed changes to the development plan. There's two things that we'll talk about that Shane will go into detail, strictly related to this project in this quadrant or parcel of the West Haven community. That's the north or southeast corner of Mac Hatcher and Highway 96. One is some improvements and changes to the plan and road layout as we've evolved and designed this project and learned more about it. Again, I'm glad to answer questions at the end about the more greater project of the senior living. And the second is a change in building height, a request that we'll clarify here and walk you through on what we're asking for. It's more just of a modification Nothing that triggers any rezoning or anything like that, but just a change to the development plan that was originally presented.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna attempt to annotate on here a little bit, but this, what you're looking at on the screen right now is the 2020 approved, we called it concept plan because West Haven was began so many years ago. It used to be called concept plan. Now it's more a development plan. But this was revised back in 2020. And so this was revision number 5. This was a revision to really the greater community. It included areas that were undeveloped and are currently under development. In this area over here, of course, the area that we're kind of talking about up in this northeast area of West Haven. For orientation purposes, this, I'll try and draw a straight line here, but this is Highway 96, and this is Mac Hatcher that comes through here. So the area that we're talking about is up again in that southeast quadrant of Mac Hatcher and 96. And really more specifically talking about the portion that's closest, highlighted in red, that's closest to Highway 96. So that doesn't affect anything in the west, everything else that's part of West Haven. So that's why we're staying focused in that area up there. Trying to get the page to turn. There we go. So again, we're talking about 2 different things: improvements to the plan, road layout, and change of building height. And I'll get into a little more specifics about why we are required to make this change to the development plan. So I've now turned you a little bit from where we previously were. But if you can see the hand on the screen, this is Highway 96. This is Mac Hatcher that comes through here. You can see the Kroger building, just again for orientation purposes, is sitting right here. So again, we're talking about this southeast quadrant, Mac Hatcher and 96. And this is the plan that was turned in with the concept plan. One of the things that with a concept plan, or the original revision 5 concept plan, also development plan, that we did was, it was entitlements for the entire community, where we were getting entitled for a number of units, specifically more specific into different types of single family townhomes, condos, all of that. And a lot of the plan in the concept plan, when we're thinking about the greater community, is kind of a placeholder until we can really get focused on what specifically the specific areas that we're talking about. And so in this case, you can see the large U-shaped building that we had here with surface parking that went all the way around the building out in front. And when we started to zoom in and really focus on this, and we began to get architects involved and civil engineers involved, we took a step back and we did market research to kind of figure out what makes the form and function of these independent living or active adult senior housing communities. And we wanted to push the envelope a little bit. What we have shown in this concept plan, we didn't feel like really fit with what we've been doing at West Haven all along. One large U-shaped building with surface parking all around is not what we see in West Haven, and we didn't want to continue down that path. So we started to really take a look at what we could do to make changes to this plan that we felt like were going to be strong improvements for this specific development, but really to the greater West Haven community. And one thing you see up here noted at the top, even with the changes that we've made, again, we're not asking for any more entitlements on this plan. There was 416 approved in this entire area east of Mac Hatcher. Right now, currently, we have 413. So we're not adding any more units to what we had approved back in 2020. One of the things that I'll point out too is that you can see that in this plan from a road layout standpoint that we have a connection over to Boyd Mill, and that remains. But what we didn't like about what we had originally shown in this concept plan was the big sweeping curve that came through that kept traffic moving consistently without any slowdown. That's a lot of distance between Boyd Mill and then coming all the way back around to Mac Hatcher, that there is no stops. So we started to take a look at that as well. So this is the proposed site plan revision, and I'll show you a little zoomed in version of it right now. You can see noted on here in this area is Jewel Phase 1. It's an approved site plan. It's actually under construction currently. And then Jewel Phase 2 to the south that I believe is going through permitting right now. And so next on the list is this north portion where we have this active adult. What I'll point out here is, again, from a circulation standpoint, we really wanted to be intentional about where the road comes to a point and stops and then still connects over to Boyd Mill, but really wanted to turn the U-shaped building that you saw before that really didn't have any direct connection or visual connection to anything and break that building apart. And so we brought a road in off of Boyd Mill that was more of a boulevard approach, flanked on both sides by townhomes, by condo buildings, and then leading you to the what I'll call the active adult facility itself. While it's still U-shaped, it's actually broken down quite a bit, both in height and scale and massing. Really starts to create a green space out front. Let me go ahead and zoom in here. So zooming into it a little bit closer, you can see what we've called Building 1 on the left-hand side of the plan, Building 2 to the north side of the green, and Building 3. So instead of just one large U-shaped building, we've now broken this down into 3 buildings. We've got green space and a lot of outdoor open space surrounding the building, an amenity and pool that you see up here behind Building 2. That really, I think, starts to create this village aspect that we really wanted to achieve. If you think Front Street, but 2 sides of the street, no lake, that's kind of what we were envisioning for this. Short of the retail, we're actually looking at components at the ground floor that will look and feel like retail, so that this is an active streetscape and not just a typical building surrounded by surface parking. Noting on that point, one of the things that you can't see on here is that there is a significant level of parking beneath Building 1, which affords us a lot of the opportunities that you see in this plan with the open space. And by not seeing a lot of surface parking around the building, allowing us to have the on-street and more walkable streetscape that you see around the green between all of the buildings. So there's, like I say, a significant amount of parking below that we were very intentional about doing at an expense, of course, but because it afforded us so many more opportunities with the plan itself. So the second thing I want to talk about is the change of building height. And just to take a step back real quick, anytime you make a change to building height or a change to plan and road layout, this must go through a development plan process, and which has to go to the Planning Commission. If we start making disconnections to major streets and asking for more entitlements, then it would go to BOMA, and that's something, these will all be next steps, and we're still talking about that process with the city. This is one thing that we have to do in this process and are happy to do, and then we'll get more involved. But just wanted to note on here why we keep highlighting these 2 things. Both of these things that we think that we've made improvements on are requirements for this development plan revision. So again, second one is the change of the building height. So again, this is the plan that was approved in 2020 as a concept plan revision. The U-shaped building that we had shown on here, and I know you can't see it very well, but had a note associated with it where my cursor is circling right now that said it was 4 stories. Because we have one of our 3 buildings now with a 5th story, that is really what triggered us needing to go back and make a revision from the building height standpoint. Again, the road layout was another one, but in this case, from a height standpoint, we needed to go back and make this change. The interesting part of it is we are already entitled to do 5 stories in West Haven through our pattern book. But because this note was on that concept plan, we again have to go back and make this change. So we're not asking for something that West Haven doesn't already allow for. It's just when you specifically noted on the development plan or concept plan, we have to go back and get that revised. So on the building height, you can kind of see up here in the key on the top right of the plan, the building that's hatched in gray is the building that you're looking at on here. And we have several elevations, but we really focused a lot, and I'm not going to get in specific to the architecture, but again, on this village idea, this resort feel to this facility versus what we would typically see out there. So we spent a lot of time looking at the architecture and thinking about how it works. This building is at the end of that boulevard, is at the end of that green, would have the kind of arrival drop-off area where you would come in and be introduced to the leasing agents and all of that. And so this building needed to feel, in our minds, more prominent. You see the cupola, that this portion of the building is that central focus as you're driving down this boulevard, and you can see the drop-off area here. This is the only building that has 5 stories of the 3 buildings that we have shown on the plan. And where grade changes, because lots of topography changes out there on the site, we have kind of this high side of the site where this drop off and the end of that boulevard is, and the building's 5 stories. Where it goes to the backside of the building, and when I say backside, this is really a 4-sided building, so we needed it to be beautiful from all 4 sides. But when I say backside, it's the side that's facing Matt Catcher on this portion of the building. And on that side, because it is a full story below, we actually had to drop the architecture so that we could keep it 5 stories on the backside of the building as well. So just want everybody to hopefully understand where we have the 5 stories is only on this one building. And then as we go to, again, sorry, I forgot about, had this slide in here, but this is that backside, the side that's facing Matt Catcher. You can see the entrance to the parking garage that's below. There'll be courtyards on top of the garage where the building is set back as courtyards. So it'll be active space up there, green. And then you can see, again, these are the 5-story portions that are sticking out towards Matt Catcher. And then as we go to building 2, this is the one that had the pool on the north side of the green. You can see that instead of it just being an all 4-story building, we really wanted to break the architecture down in that building as well. So you can see it, how it steps down to 3 stories in certain portions, break this thing up so it didn't look like a big monolithic structure out there, and make it feel more village-like. And as we go to the building 3, which is on the south side of the green, flanking the green and boulevard, again, stepping down the architecture at the ends of the building so that the 4 stories creates the good scale and feeling that you have out there walking on the streetscape and in the green space, but stepping down as we start to head towards the single family and condo buildings and townhomes that are outside of this facility itself. And then we have a few shots of the, it's conceptual, of course, but to give you kind of a better feeling and understanding of what we're talking about here. So this is looking in as if you drove in off of Boyd Mill and you've made it past the townhomes and the condo building. Now you're looking at that green and the streetscape on both sides and leading you up to the 5-story building, the main building at the end of this boulevard. Then we have a little closer view here. Again, looking at the 5-story building, but really wanted to point out in this image, you can start to see how the streets break apart the buildings. So again, this isn't one large, just U-shaped building. There are penetrations in the building and in breaking down the scale. You can see 3 stories stepping up to 4, and then the 5-story portion in here. Same thing, 3 actually stepping down to 1 and pulling back off of that corner to create a terrace out there on the street, outdoor dining on the street itself. And then the last image we have here is looking from building 1 back towards building 3, so that you can see again where the streets kind of break through the building and break down the architecture and the massing that we have in this plan. And so this is the last slide before we get to Q&A. Just want to reiterate, I mean, we've done a lot of research on what makes these buildings work well. And as we've focused on active living and what we truly believe active adult living is and wants to be here at West Haven, it's kind of brought us to what we have shown here. And pushing the envelope quite a bit on what's out there and available. But we think it does fit more into what West Haven is all about. And we hope that everybody else is seeing that here and thinks the same.
Yeah, and I'm glad to give just a quick overview of the project. Shane talked about it in parts and pieces and some of the technical side, but what the part we're focusing on here is 207 active adult for rent apartments. The product to the east and south will be for sale single family homes. Those collectively make up the 413 total units on this Jewel parcel, the southeast quadrant. So what we've done is designed a very unique product class that's not offered really in Franklin, Nashville, or Tennessee for that matter, where we have this active adult environment with heavily amenitized with 4 dining options, movie theater, indoor pool, outdoor pool, co-working, arts and crafts, teaching kitchens, larger apartment units, pickleball courts. We're trying to create literally a village resort feel with this project. This project is in the design stage. Obviously, we're working with the city on the technical side, as well as just advancing plans and making sure everything fits. Optimistically, we'll hopefully start this project next spring. And then if all goes well, we would likely deliver these active adult units, the rentals, in the summer of 26. So sounds far away, but it'll be here before we know it. So that's just a quick overview on what this project really entails. We're glad to open this up to questions. Chelsea, if you have anything specific you want to note or say, we'll let you go first. Otherwise, feel free to ask questions.
Thank you. I don't have any questions or anything to follow up with. That was a great presentation, and I'll just kind of leave it for the residents.
Just so I try and stay in at least a little bit of order, but Franklin Farrow had on here, beautiful project. Please further describe scope of senior living active adult. Maybe you did that a little bit just then, but
yeah, I don't.
Units only, assisted living, licensed medical care. Who's the operator?
Yeah, so the good question. So the 207 for rent active adult units will only be active adult independent living. There will be no assisted living or memory care in this project. We do have some medical an amenity that we'll have for our active adults, but it is not a licensed project with AL or MC. So that's just a product or a service level that we won't provide on this project.
Open it up to anybody else that has any questions. I don't see anything else in the chat.
Yeah,
Hey guys, good afternoon. Commend you on your effort here. Everything looks really good. Looks like it's going to serve the community well. I have a question about the overall site itself, more towards the back, the south part of the Jewel. I think it was phase 2. I was just curious, what is the setback there? And it was a few slides back. But I'm wondering what the setback is for phase 2, really against the neighboring property, the neighborhood back there. It was maybe a little bit farther back, the overall site.
So we're glad to try to answer that question, but I do want to reiterate that specific to this phone call, we are focused on this active adult for rent, the 2 changes. So
Sure, yep.
Shannon and I don't have that information where we can tell you it's 20 feet or whatever. That's part of an approved development plan. So I wasn't part of that design. So I really honestly just can't give you an answer on that.
Okay, and I'm not here to dispute that.
I apologize.
No, you're good.
You have an idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Just trying to play catch up here.
Understood.
So the slide that I have up now, just so I'm understanding, are you talking about the very south property line that's along in here?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And I was seeing the road, and then it looks like some plots there, and then the hatched area where the tree line is. I was just curious because it looks pretty close, and I was just curious what that setback is. It looks pretty minimal.
My name, this is Kathleen. I'm also a Franklin Green resident on the lower end of Nolan, and I think Jordan is right close to me. We're concerned, is there any possibility that this tree line that is going to be disrupted?
I can't speak to the entire tree line because I specifically didn't look. Again, I know these plans are going through permitting. So what I can tell you is that from looking at this, there is that hatch that you're seeing along the property line tells me there is a stream that goes along the property line, and there is a required buffer that cannot be touched along that stream. Yes. And then it would appear to me whatever trees are at least within that buffer would be untouched. I can't speak to any that may be outside of it.
Okay.
And certainly nothing outside of our property. From looking at the plan here on the south side, and again, to Michael's point, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you that the back of the lots themselves, just with the lot, appears to be at least 30 to 40 feet. And then you're going to have a additional setback to the actual, any of the homes that are on there because they don't back up. There is a rear yard component to each of those lots. So I don't know the exact number, but I would
be healthy.
Yeah. Hopefully that's helpful at least.
No, it's very helpful. And, I know what Southern and y'all do beautiful work. And so we're not, at least for me personally, I'm not concerned about the quality or what you're doing. We really want to keep that tree line that separates the 2 properties. And I know you can't speak to that. I also wanted to ask a question, kind of between phase 1 and phase 2. Is that going to be a road that connects to Mac Hatcher and to the other side of West Haven?
She's talking about
here?
No, between phase 1 and phase 2, down south from where you are. Yeah, right there.
Yes, that is a definite connection to Mac Hatcher, and will eventually connect to what is Townsend Street and the rest of West Haven.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And I think you guys answered the setback question. I think that covered it. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for your patience. We don't have 100% command of that knowledge, but we can give you educated guesses.
No problem at all. And hey, one other.
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
I was just going to say one other question. The connection to Boyd Mill there, I assume a traffic study has already been done with, tying in where it is tying in and kind of the traffic patterns there.
Yes, yeah. When we did the concept plan revision in 2020, the larger development where entitlements were part of that, and this property actually was added, that was definitely a requirement for the traffic study and what improvements would need to be made associated with it to accommodate it. Again, since this development revision isn't asking for any additional entitlements, at least at this time, we're not required for any specific traffic study revisions.
Will there be a traffic light there?
I'm not aware of a traffic light.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's going to be hey guys, this is Russ Hinkle. I'm in Franklin Green as well. And that's probably my biggest concern.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the skyline, some of us abut back, which is why we're on this meeting because of the close proximity to what's going to happen. Definitely traffic from other parts of our area is just, it is ballooned over Boyd Mill. And if you guys make an outlet there, you've got, it's going to be a problem if we don't look at it to actually address it. Frankly, it's a problem now, but just interested to understand that a little bit more.
The only information I can give you is that when we were doing the planning back in 2020 for this, we worked with the city quite a bit on what improvements would need to be made, taking the sharp curve out of Boyd Mill, how to align it, whether there's turn lanes involved, where there's stop conditions, anything that would make the improvements that would be necessary for this development. And so as of right now, we are going to be required a connection out to Boyd Mill. And the intention is where it is shown. Again, can't speak to, what other outside factors may have come in, but, perhaps you could reach out to the city to get more information on that.
Chelsea, are you a part of the city representation on that? Can you speak to that?
I am part of the city representation, but neighborhood meetings are not, this specific issue is not something that we would address during a neighborhood meeting. Neighborhood meetings are for the items that are being considered on the development plan. So if you have any additional questions, you can definitely reach out to engineering is who I would specifically reach out to in regards to any required road connections. That would be my recommendation.
Well, can we get a copy of that traffic study?
You can definitely request it. That would have to
Okay.
go through engineering.
Okay, great.
I have a question. I own 3270 and some other properties along the Boyd Mill, Richard Clark. And I'm very familiar with what they're doing because they're taking part of my property for that road. But my question is to Southern Land, and I've yet to hear this from the city, is the actual road development, is that the initial phase of the first part of developing the Jewel property, or are you going to go ahead with development of the property regardless of that road connecting to Boyd Mill? Because I've heard that the Boyd Mill revamp is going to take over 12 months to complete, which in itself, for those folks on the call, it's going to probably hamper the throughput on Boyd Mill at some point during this construction project. So does anyone know if it's dependent on that connector going to Boyd Mill before you commence construction, or hasn't that not been determined?
The only thing I can tell you is that would be a better question for us, and I hate to push everything back on them, but a better question for city engineering. My understanding is, though, there is a certain amount that can be built without that connection, and then there is a certain amount that cannot be built until that connection is made. As far as the improvements to Boyd Mill itself beyond the connection, I have no idea.
That's fine. No problem. I have one other question. I missed the first part of the presentation, unfortunately, but along the boulevard that you're going to develop, those areas there, I think you were mentioning they're going to be townhouses. Is that correct, where those rectangular lines are along the boulevard?
That's correct. So let me get to, I guess that one doesn't really show the lines as well. But look,
yeah.
You can see it on here, but yes, it is townhomes on the north and south side of that boulevard. And then as you get to the green and where the actual active adult facility is located, you can see there is a condo building on the 3-story condo building on the corner here.
So the eastern portion is for sale product, and then when you get into the middle of the village, the gray buildings become the rental units.
And the for sale parcels, will there be a specific design for those? Will they be a certain square footage or height? Is there any specifics on that at this point?
Not specifics, no, because we haven't even had those lots platted or anything at this point. So we'll be getting into more details on that. I would suggest, though, that if you go and look at more of the standard townhomes that we have in West Haven currently, and the condo buildings, the 3-story condo buildings that are along both Front Street over next to the Kroger. There's one at the entry on the right-hand side. They won't look the same, I'm sure of it, but obviously we pay attention to the architecture on each building, but they would be similar in form and massing.
Yes, but the intent is to develop those for sale lots in a similar fashion to the existing West Haven stock. Obviously, it is age targeted, age restricted as part of this whole Jewel parcel.
Understood. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, just so I make sure we didn't skip anybody, there was a couple of chat questions from R. Hinkle. What impact has been looked at for the surrounding community? Franklin Gein, for instance, lots of talk about benefit for West Haven.
I know Ryan addressed one question. Ryan, did we address your question?
Guys, that was actually me that I had typed that in. Probably the biggest concern that I have, and Chelsea, kind of why I was putting you on the spot as well, is many of us actually have our kids that are going over to Perry Creek, and I would be concerned about the bus pickup and traffic, depending upon not only construction or extension of Boyd Mill, but really the impact of that. So I get the process of vetting those questions through the city, but that is a reality for many of us here in the community, and something I would ask you guys to definitely consider.
Understood.
This is Fred Danielle. I live in Carlisle, across 96 and Boyd Mill. A question for you regarding the height discussion, because you guys have done a lot of infill already on this property. If we using the 96 and Mac Hatcher as a baseline, what are we looking at above those elevations for these structures? I mean, is the first floor going to be even with Mac Hatcher 96? Is it going to be above or below?
Well, the topo changes are depending on what point you're on 96. But if you use the intersection as the baseline, I would say that the back of the building essentially will be level. We have detention and some other water quality things that are going to have to be in there. And that's why you see some space there on the north side of this building here. We also have a lot of existing wetlands and streams that are in that setback. So we have no buildings that are closer than 300 feet to Highway 96. I would say from a topo standpoint, it's relatively even, but as we've done in all of West Haven, we're going to make it a point to landscape the lower portion because we do have some surface parking on the backside of this building. So there'll be a significant amount of landscaping on that lower level.
It's again important to note the wetland that fronts the whole 96 road. Other than cleaning it up and meeting whatever regulatory standards we need to, it's going to remain as a nice buffer for our project to Highway 96, which selfishly we want on our side, and it adds a nice greenscape along the street.
No, I agree with you. I was just trying to get a perspective there because as the infill keeps going in there, I begin to worry about 5 stories stacked on top of that begins to lift itself up pretty high.
I have one more question. And I know you mentioned this before. Can you tell me the dates the various phases are expected to progress?
Well, I can address the parcel in question, the independent active adult living. We would hope to start, since you live out there, they're already doing mass grading and pushing dirt, right? But the actual vertical construction for the northern parcel, I would hope would be, spring of 24 and complete in summer of 26. I believe, Shane, that I can't remember which phase 1 or 2 is actually undergoing.
Phase 1.
Yeah, phase 1. I know they hope to start building houses out there in the next, say, 9 months or so. I'm not familiar with the schedule and the rest of the parcel. I'm sorry.
As far as phase 2, you don't have any idea of the schedule for that?
I don't. I'm only involved in the West Haven, the rental product and the active adult project we're talking about at the top portion of the parcel.
Okay, Chelsea, do you mind, excuse me for not understanding the rules and how the city planning works. Is there anywhere within the city of Franklin we can find out what is phase 2's progress, or is that up to Southern Land?
You are more than welcome to reach out to me in a separate way, like via email. These neighborhood meetings are for the specifics of what they're asking for, which is the development plan revision, which has to do with this product alone. It does not have to do with any other part of West Haven or any other submitted site plan or plat or any of that. It only has to do with what they're proposing tonight. So you are more than welcome to reach out to me, Chelsea Randolph, via email or a phone call. I'm happy to try to navigate that for you. You can also do an open records request for any information that you want to be able to have access to in terms of active projects.
And clarify for me, I know we got the little drawing and information in the mail that came with this notice. Is it possible to get, where do I go to get this particular slide that's up there right now?
So it wasn't part of the notice, right? It's just part of our presentation.
It's just part of their presentation. So you could ask them for it. Maybe they can email it to you. I don't know.
Is the slide deck going to be available?
I think that we can probably make that available.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
There's no secret information or anything.
No, it's just nice for us. I'm speaking for myself down here on Millen Lane on the end of that to see the greater picture.
Yeah, so Kathleen, I'll give you my email address if you want. You just want to send it to me, and I'll make sure you get this page that's on the screen.
Excellent, thank you.
I'll also try to get you at least general schedules for phase 1 and 2, because again, Shane and I don't work on that portion, but we might be able to give you some estimated start and completion dates.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of it will depend on the city and issuing permits, but we can at least forecast what that is.
That would be fabulous. Thank you.
So my name's Michael, Michael McNally, McNally at southernland.com.
All right. We will be
Michael,
hearing from me.
And then on the notice was also Ben Crenshaw's information. You can also email him.
Okay, great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
One more, just, I don't want to miss these that are on here. I want to make sure at least they're read and heard. M said, hi, are there any plans to restore access to the trail that connects Franklin Green to the West Haven community so that the children can walk to school again? I'm not aware of, if M is still on here, I'm not aware of any plans to do that. I don't think there's anything associated with this Jewel portion in here. If there's something that is in the cities from a parks standpoint that they may know differently, you could obviously reach out to the Parks Department to find out, but I'm not aware of any pedestrian connections right now. And then on here, I know Jordan's asked a few questions, so this may be a repeat, but to SLC, are you reworking Boyd Mill to curve or will the road remain as is? Also, what is the timeline for that infrastructure work? Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Again, thanks for the comment. I think we already addressed that one, Jordan. Is there anybody else that I don't see anything else on the chat?
Sorry, guys. Sorry, I may have missed it. I didn't hear the answer if it was being reworked or not, but I'm sure you probably did mention it.
It will be reworked. I don't know the timing of it.
Okay.
As part of the traffic study with the initial concept plan for the entitlements for this property, we were required to look at where the connections were made and what improvements needed to be made for that connection to occur. And so that has all been addressed previously. I don't know the timing of any of those improvements though.
Okay, gotcha. So it sounds like that will be eased right there at Boyd Mill.
Yeah, it's Richard Clark. I would tell you it will be, and there'll be turning lanes, I think, to the left going towards 96. Sidewalks, new drainage, and definitely smoothing that corner, which, as we all know, is hit very at high speed, and there's often accidents on that corner. So I think there's going to be some significant improvement there.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that might have been the missing link for some folks, understanding that will be, an improved road, not only entrance, but road as well. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I was trying to zoom in. I'm not able to while I'm doing the sharing, but yes, thank you, Richard, for pointing that out, because you can see these little dark 3 lines are actually left arrows. So there is a middle turn lane that it looks like from about the end of this curve here all the way to the light. And then there are, you can see a sidewalk on this side, the Jewel side of the property, as well as pedestrian crossings of Boyd Mill. Looks like going back and connecting to 96.
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
Sure. Didn't see anything else in the chat. Do others have questions? Look like somebody raised their hand.
Hi, this is Julie. I was wondering, when can we get on a wait list for the rental units?
That's a great question. I think once we start to understand the project schedule, but we will be creating some type of website, splash page, and in the coming months. So Julie, I don't know if you wrote down my email. I can give it to you again. Or if you got the notice, you could email Ben Crenshaw, whose information's on the notice. He can get the information to me, whichever you like.
I got the notice via the City of Franklin website. Could I take down yours once again? Yes. I didn't previously take it. I apologize.
Not a problem. Again, my name is Michael McNally. My email is Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L .McNally, M-C-N-A-L-L-Y at southernland.com.
michael.mcnally, McNally @southernland.com.
That is correct.
Thank you very much, Michael.
See if there was anybody else that had a hand raised. I don't see anything else coming through. Any other questions from anybody?
We'll work to try to get some of these answers probably to you, Chelsea, or if Kathleen wanted to email me directly, we'll see where we.
I did want to just give out, just for everyone's reference, my email and my direct line, so that you can contact me if you have any additional questions. My phone number is 615-791-3212. And then my email address, I'm gonna just put in the chat, because you may have a hard time spelling everything. So give me just a second and I'll do that, and everybody who wants it can have it, and otherwise, sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you, Chelsea. Chelsea, just so we know, because I haven't done one of the Zoom neighborhood meetings, are we required to stay on here for the full hour?
No, sir.
Okay.
If there's no more questions, then you can end whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Well, again, we've given out some email addresses, and there were some on the notice. We recognize some people may have follow-up questions. We're here to communicate and explain our project as much as we can. And I appreciate, Chelsea, you helping getting this organized and processed. And thanks for everyone attending and your interest.
Yeah, we're excited about the project. We really do think it's going to be unique and different than what most people see out there as far as active adult goes. So hopefully this is just the beginning. But thanks for everybody joining.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.